Hello everyone, welcome back to Sukio's Art channel. This is my first live video on this channel, so I'm feeling quite nervous actually. I hope you enjoy it. Let me just put that out of the way because it's just just this thing I have lying around. I don't really need it. There we go. Okay, so I have a new setup because I basically moved house about 3 weeks ago. And I've been really busy setting everything up and setting my art desk up again, etc., etc. So yeah, I don't know what else to say on that front, but basically this is what it looks like right now. Nothing special, I know, but it's quite comfortable, and I really enjoy it. I really hope you can see everything. And yeah, let's get started. As I said, I'm a little bit nervous because this is my first live video, so just bear with me on this. Okay, so I don't want to make this a very long video because I'm still getting used to everything. And as I said, it is my first live video. So I just thought for my first video in this new house, I just show you guys a tutorial on how to draw faces. Now, usually I do reviews. I do love reviewing products. I don't know why. I think I'm addicted to reviewing new products. But on this occasion, I thought I'll just keep it simple. I'll just do a tutorial. So in hearing myself say that, I'm now thinking doing a tutorial is not that simple. So let's see what happens. So I've got my Staedtler pencils here, Staedtler and Norris. These are actually my brother's. Funny story, while moving home, I was living at my parents'. I lived with my parents for about a year. Due to some personal circumstances, I had to move out of my previous house. And on the move here, the moving men were moving boxes into this house, and they brought one of my brother's art boxes by accident. So these are some of his art supplies. Now, I did tell him about it, but he said I can keep them, so I'm just going to use them temporarily. 1 second, I'm just going to drink some water. Okay, that's better. So yeah, I'll be showing you guys how to draw a face. And then I will try and paint it in using these Derwent fine art pencils. This is actually the Derwent Inktense Align. Ooh. If you can hear the background noise, that's because I live in a shared house now. And those are my roommates just, getting on with their lives, I guess. So yeah, this is a really pretty box. I actually gave this to my brother as a gift, but I guess he's now giving it back to me. So there you have it. Really nice. And maybe I will review this another time, but today it is just about the tutorial. Sorry. Sorry. Oh, I apologize for the background noise. I have a friend who's here with me, and he's being very kind and watching my video. So if you just heard my voice played back in the video, that's because he's watching the video while I'm doing it. Yeah, just one of those, I don't know, what's that show called? The one where weird things happen from the 60s? Twilight Zone things. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so, right. So my method for drawing faces is actually quite simplified, I would say. I have since discovered the Riley method recently, and I think the Riley method is actually much better than the method that I use. But I'm still learning how to do that one because it's quite complex for my mind. So all I'm going to be doing today is just showing you a simple method of how to draw a face. Now, if you've studied faces as much as I have, because I draw a lot of faces, eventually you will be able to draw from imagination. I believe that if you draw enough things, eventually your mind will absorb all the information that you need for you to be able to draw from imagination. I do have a reference picture in front of me, just in case I do, because, for example, sometimes I tend to go into anime/manga mode and I draw the eyes too big. So I do actually have a reference picture in front of me just to keep me grounded, but I am going to try to draw from imagination. I'm not going to be drawing the person in the picture. There's nothing wrong with using references, of course, if you're drawing a face, but I'm not going to be using a grid method or anything like that. I'm just going to show you a simple method that I use just to draw a face. And this is not, for realistic drawing or anything like that, though I'm sure anybody can use this for anything. And this is just a simple method to get you started. So what I tend to do is I'm going to turn the paper a little bit like this, because this is how I like to draw, even if it looks a little weird. So I learned this from a book a long time ago. I did have art classes when I was in school. I did 2 years of art, and I learned a lot from it. And I did art in school, from primary to middle to secondary school and all that, or high school. But I never really went to art classes after that. I didn't study art at college or university or anything like that. I studied film. So a lot of what I know is self-taught, and I'm still learning. I wouldn't say that I am an expert, but I believe that I have some knowledge that I can share. So what I usually do when I want to draw a face is I tend to draw 2 circles. So they can be messy to begin with. I've seen videos of Disney artists who they draw circles when they're drawing faces, and their circles are absolutely perfect. They're amazing. They're so beautiful. Those people are so talented. But unfortunately, my circles tend to be a little bit messy. Now, it's okay for it to be messy to begin with. Once I draw my circles, because I'm just doing this really quickly just to get an idea of what this face should look like. The bottom circle should be a little bit smaller than the top circle, because obviously this is in terms of the skull. I would recommend that you study, if you want to be an artist, that you study skull structure and bone structure in order to get an idea, because even though everything comes down to basic shapes, like I'm starting with just 2 circles to begin with, if you understand skulls and bones, then you're more likely to get the lines right, if that makes sense. So I actually I have drawn skeletons before, and I actually find it a lot of fun. I love drawing skeletons, so I need to actually do another video on that at some point, or actually a video on that at some point in my channel, because I haven't done one yet. So I don't know why I said another. Never mind. But yeah, I would like to draw, or rather to make a video on bones and skeletons and stuff, because I find them fascinating, and it's incredible just how much bones dictate what you look like, and all the other fascinating facts about bones, like the fact that I believe DNA stored in the bones and things like that. So yeah, I'm digressing now, but as an artist, anatomy is important. I'm still studying it myself. But yeah, learning from life is the best thing. And if you don't have access to live classes, or life classes rather, or you can't afford them, then try and do it from pictures. Once I have my 2 circles, I like to go around like this. This is a very clunky method, to be honest with you guys. The Riley method is the one that I would recommend, and I'll be studying that, and hopefully I'll be using that in the future to create my faces. This is just like a quick one if you want to draw a face quickly, maybe for sketching purposes, or you're just trying to have fun, or just this is like more of a beginner's guide if you want to begin drawing faces, but you don't want to, you find that something a bit more complex like the Riley method puts you off. So yeah, so I then try and turn this into an oval, as you can see. And the reason why I made this side a little bit larger, perhaps I should make it a little bit larger than that actually, is because I'm going to be trying to draw a face that's a little bit like slightly sideways, still looking forward. It's still pretty much a front angle, but it's just turned to the side slightly. So actually I'm going to make this side of the oval, I'm going to stretch the chin a little bit here, and I'm going to just make that a little bit larger. If it turns out that I've made the skull too large, that's okay, because later we can always adjust, because this is still the drawing process. It's not finished. I do say a lot. So bear with me on that. I hope it's not too annoying. Right. So yeah, at this point, we're just like getting the shapes into place. So even if it's not correct, that's fine. You can always change it later. So after I draw the oval, I then go for the eyes. Now, one of the things that you can do is draw a line like this to try to determine at the very beginning where the eyes and the nose are going to be. Again, my lines are very messy. So actually I made it a little bit more sideways than I'd meant to. Let me change that line. But at this point, it can be messy because, you know, as I said, you can adjust as you go along anyway. And even if I've got the chin in the wrong place or I've got something in the wrong place, that's okay because I can change it as I go along. I'm sure a more professional artist would say, try to get it right first time around. But I like being loose with my drawings. You know, it's important to have fun as well, especially if you're a beginner. I then draw a line across because this is going to determine where the eyes are. So I draw a line like this. And now, depending on the different methods that you're using, it can get a little bit more complex than this. This is quite simplified just to get you started. And as I said, the Riley method is probably the best one, but this is just like something to work with if you just want to get started with drawing, or yeah, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. So at this point, I try to determine where the eyes are going to be. Now, a rule of thumb is that when you're drawing the two eyes, at least when the face is looking forwards, is that if you want to determine where the eyes go, they say that, for example, if an eye is here, then you're supposed to draw like three eyes. So one eye is here, another eye is here, another eye is here. Now that might sound weird because I'm not explaining myself very well, but what they're saying, but what the rule is, sorry, I don't know. Sometimes I just can't talk. The words just won't come out. I do apologize for that. I do stutter a little bit. Bear with me on that. But what I'm trying to say is that um, the rule is that the space between the two eyes should be about the same size as the eyes. So if you're trying to determine where the eyes are going to go, you can draw three eyes in a row and then just erase the eye in the middle, just so you know the amount of space that you need between the two eyes. Okay, so that's something that you can use. So here I've got my three eyes. Obviously, I'm not going to use all three of them. I mean, if you were creating a monster or something, or designing a character, you could do that. That's perfectly fine. But if it's, this is a tutorial on just, how to draw a basic face. So, yeah, I'm not going to be using that third eye, but you never know, in the future, maybe. So once you've got your eyes in place, I like to draw like full eyeballs like this. Because when you have a skull, if you've ever seen a skull, and I'm sure most people have seen skulls before, you'll know that the eye socket is quite large. And what happens in terms of anatomy is that the eye tends to occupy, I mean, perhaps this is too large. I may have made that too large, and I'll actually make that smaller in a second. But the eye tends to occupy most of the eye socket, but then you have the skin that goes over it, where the eyelashes sit, and you have skin underneath where more eyelashes are. So actually made that too large. As I said to you guys at the beginning, I have this tendency to sometimes go into manga eyes mode. So that's something that I'm trying to get out of. Okay. I'm going to make it that size. Hopefully it will work. There's nothing wrong with trying to stylize and having a style that's like realistic manga-like. I've seen that, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. But with me, sometimes I just go into default when it comes to that sort of thing, and I'm trying to make my drawings a little bit more realistic. So I've got my eyes there. As I said, I'm quite messy. My lines probably should be a bit more precise, but yeah, never mind. Maybe I'll get better as I go along. I should do with practice. Everybody should do. Now, the thing about drawing down, and this happens to me a lot, is when you're drawing down, you will find that a lot of times you will get the ratios wrong. I don't know what it is, but entirely. But there's something about the way the brain interprets information, and so when you're looking down, for example, I'm looking at this right now, and it looks correct, but then when I bring it up, I can see that one of the eyes is slightly higher than the other. So if you can get an easel, one of the things I would recommend, I mean, in my case, I've got the camera right above my paper, so I have to draw down. So there's going to be a lot of guessing for me. But if you're trying to draw, trying to learn how to draw, I would recommend getting an easel so you can have the paper up like this or like this. It will probably be at an angle so you can see what you're doing and whether the eyes are the same height or not. So that's something that's going to happen a lot if you're a beginner. It used to happen to me a lot where I would be drawing with the paper down like this, and then I'd bring it up and I'd be like, oh, okay, one of my eyes is higher than the other. You don't want that. It's frustrating. Okay, but I'm going to leave the eyes there as it is, and I'll tidy it up later. Now I'm going to try and draw the nose. So usually what I do, again, it's all about simple shapes. Now with the nose, usually you can bring a line from the corner of the eye down like this, and a line from the corner of the other eye down like this. And in doing this, it will determine where the bottom of the nose is going to go. At this point, you can like draw a line, like a circle there, depending on how big you want the nose. That's really up to you. And another circle there, and another circle there. When I draw the 3 circles for the nose, I always draw these 2 slightly inside the bigger one, because the thing about the nose is that they're never, what I'll show you later when I start drawing, I may have actually made this one a little bit too big, but I can always adjust it as I go along. But yeah, these will always, because they're connected, so you don't want to just draw the balls, these little balls outside of the big one, because they are connected like this, but I'll adjust as I go along. Okay, so then I'm adjusting the face now. We have the lips, and with the lips, usually you have like these 2 lines that like go from the nose and join with the lips. So I use these lines to determine where I'm going to place my lips. And then what I do is I draw a circle here for the top lip, and a circle here, and a circle here. And these 2 circles are always above this one, because obviously when you look at the shape of the lips always go slightly down like this. Some people have sharper edges, some people have softer edges. Okay, maybe I drew that too high, but again, it depends what you're trying to draw. So yeah, and then I do 2 of these just underneath. Okay, now before I start tidying up these lines, at this point, once I know where my lips are, I start tidying up the skull, because what I've done here is, this is the forehead. So this is the back of the head, and this is the forehead. So I have to tidy it up at the end. His chin or her chin is just not big enough. This is too small. So I'll go around like this. The skull tends to come in slightly there where the eyes are. And then if it's a girl, she tends to have fuller cheeks. I tend to draw girls a lot. And then I come down here and I broaden the chin. Okay. And depending on whether it's a man or a woman, women tend to have softer edges where the jaw connects with the rest of the skull. So they tend to be more rounded. So maybe more rounded here, whereas men tend to be a little bit more square. Okay, now of course everyone is different. Some women have more, squarer jaws than others, but as a rule of thumb, women tend to have softer edges. Okay, their jaws tend to be softer. Okay, and men tend to have squarer jaws. Jaws. Oh my God, I can't talk anymore. I can't speak in English anymore. My English is failing me. And then what usually happens at this point is you have the ear here. I'm just going to draw a circle for now because it's all about beginning with simple shapes. Okay, and then the neck. That ear is too big. That's ridiculously big. It's more like this. I don't know what I'm doing. Sorry, my desk is shaking a lot because when I moved in here, the people the moving men who moved my desk broke my desk. And because it's broken now, it shakes a lot. So I do apologize for that. But yeah, you have the ear here, and then you have the neck. So the neck will connect at the back here because the skull actually goes out like this. Okay. And neck will connect somewhere here to the skull. But once you know about anatomy, you'll be able to adjust, as I said, as you go along, if you understand how it works. And this is quite rough. This is a very simple method. It's probably not the best method um, for learning how to draw faces, but it's just a simple method if you want to get started. It's all about applying shapes and just, knowing about anatomy, especially if the face is at an angle. You would notice that, the skull, this bit is always wider and this bit is always thinner because this is the jaw, obviously, and this is the bulbous bit of the skull. So once you understand about anatomy a little bit, you can kind of adjust it as you go along. But okay, so at this point, what I would do is I would define the nose first. I hope that's not boring, guys, because I feel like I'm very monotone in the way I speak. But again, I am a little bit nervous because this is my first live tutorial. So hopefully you're gaining something from this and it's not a complete waste of time. Now, at this point, what I like to do is define the nose first because that kind of like decides where everything else goes and how everything else is shaped. And the nose begins from the eyebrows, where the eyebrows sit, to this area where you've decided the bottom of the nose is going to go. I wish I knew the right terms for for all these areas of the face. The anatomical, and you know what? I don't know, but you know what I mean. But I don't know the actual term, so I do apologize about that. What I do at this point is just I decide where the eyebrow is going to be. I don't really give it like a big shape or anything of the sort. That's actually too long. I think this eye is too big, but that depends on where the ear is going to sit. I might actually bring it out a little bit more here. I'll decide in a second, but actually I'll decide now because that's important. Where your ear is going to go. Again, if this is shaking, it's because, as I said, they broke my desk. The moving man broke my desk. Now, with the ear, I forgot to mention, I'm actually doing this a little bit wrong because with the ear, as a general rule of thumb, again, it's not going to be the same for everyone, but as a general rule of thumb, the ear should actually begin roughly where the eyes begin and should end roughly where the nose ends. So I'm actually doing this wrong. I apologize. I forgot about this. So my ear should be somewhere around here. But I think it would be more slanted than this. So what I'm going to do Looks a bit like a butterfly. Okay. I can always define it later, but yeah, so the jaw basically joins roughly where the ear begins at the bottom here. And then you have the neck, which begins somewhere around here. Again, it depends on the person. Everyone is different. But yeah, that's roughly my ear. And then you have a little bit of space there. Because especially if it's a slight sideways angle like mine is, you are going to need a little bit of space there. A little bit of space between the eye and the ear. Okay. Okay, I'll tidy that up later. So yeah, I'm just going to draw the eyebrow shape here. Because the nose is supposed to begin where the eyebrow is. So what I do is I bring it down like this. And I join it together. I give it a little bit of a curve, and then I try to bring it down straight and fan out at the bottom here. Let me just erase that a little bit. And then I can adjust it as well. I can make it a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, depending what kind of nose I want to go for. Now, in a realistic painting or drawing, most of the time you're going to be defining these things with shadows and lights or highlights. If you're drawing realistically, you don't want edges. Yeah, you don't want definition like this one. Like I'm actually, there's a line for the nose. You don't want that. You want to be able to define the nose using color, not lines. Because lines are usually when you're drawing a cartoon. That's one of the biggest differences between realistic painting and cartoons. Cartoons usually have lines and edges, and if you want to make it look, you want to make it look a little bit more realistic. My nose looks terrible. You will want to use colors to define shape. Okay, let me try that again. Yes, I've given it a line here, but I really shouldn't. Because you don't want to use lines to define anything. I think I made the nose too big anyway, because there should be more of a space down there between the nose and the lips. So I'm just going to make it a little bit shorter. Really, here you should have a circle. And then kind of join it together. There'll be like a shadow here joining it. And the shadow here joining it. And no lines. Okay, so that's... I'm actually going to bring the lips down a little bit more. And the circles can be as big, depending on what size of lips you're going for. It's up to you to determine how big you want your circles to be. So at this point, what I do is, I said I use the lines of the nose, so I'll draw that again. So this is pretty rough anyway, as I said. I think I may have drawn that a little bit too big. Bottom lip is always a little bit shorter than the top lip. They do join. There's always this line which is a little bit darker. I'll show you guys when I'm painting what I mean. But yeah, the top lip will always look or appear a little bit longer than the bottom lip. Okay. And all lips are different. I would recommend practicing, different, just having one day just drawing lips continuously, or drawing noses, or drawing eyes, or drawing hands. You get the gist of it. Okay. So I'm satisfied with the size of the chin at this point. So I don't feel like I need to change it. As I said here, the skull just goes in a little bit. I might have exaggerated a little bit for the purposes of this drawing, but maybe the chin should be a little bit larger. I'm going to try. So it comes out like this because this is the cheekbone, and then it goes in like this, and then it joins with the chin. Okay, now I'm gonna draw the eyes. I haven't defined the nose yet, though. Well, let me just define the nose. Oh. I have to say, I'm not crazy about this HB pencil. Let me get one with a sharper edge. This is the beauty about having so many of them. Okay, so I've defined that a little bit now. Let me go for the eye. It shakes everything. My camera is shaking right now. Okay, so I will. So I'm going to draw that a little bit smaller. I think that was too big. So the eye is kind of like an oval. Don't have to, that's pretty obvious, but it's not completely an oval. It kind of has this beautiful, almost almond-like shape to it. But of course, everybody's eyes is different. Okay, and then you have, so this is the eye socket, and there's a little bit of skin that kind of comes out. Again, it depends on using references only is always good if you're beginning. But then you have a little bit of skin that comes out on top like this. May have drawn that eye too big, I'm thinking. May have to change the line of the nose. Maybe I'm making it too round. Noses are not always necessarily like, you know, round per se. And then we have, yeah, so you want to start with basic shapes, and then you want to start tidying up your drawing. With the lip, again, it depends on the lips, I guess. But it usually, the reason why we put the ball in the middle a little bit lower than the other two is because with the lips usually have this edge where it goes down like this and then it comes up again. But, it, you know, it depends on the person. Again, I apologize for the background noise. My friend just went out the room and he left the door open. So I apologize. So with the eyes, usually you have a little edge there. I'm adding it to the ball. To the ball? Yeah, to that ball. Because what it is you usually have a little bit here, which is like a red skin. And then you have the eyeball, which is, well, it appears white to us, but there's all sorts of colors inside of it. And this is a little bit of red skin. So which is why I say the eye shape is a little bit like an almond shape, to put it in simplistic terms. But it's not quite, it's a little bit more complex than that, like with anything. But you start with shapes, you start with circles, you start with rectangles, squares. That's how everything goes. And then whatever you wish, whether you wish for the person to be looking forward or sideways, you then draw the little iris. Is that what it's called? Iris in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to try again to draw just a messy circle to begin with, and then I'll tidy it up roughly where I want it to go. And then I'm going to try and tidy this up. not sure what this looks like on camera. It's looking a little bit meh in real life, but we're not finished. Okay, so that's the iris. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Thank you. Then there's a little bit of skin that goes like that. And then you draw another little ball inside. One of the biggest problems you're going to find when you're using photos as reference, which is why it's always better to use real people, is that unfortunately a lot of photos are photoshopped or they've been messed around with. So you'll find that you can't really get a realistic depiction of what things look like because they've been so manipulated. So we're talking skin texture, all sorts of things. So like this picture that I'm looking at, that I'm kind of using as a reference, she is so photoshopped that I can't like barely see the texture of her skin. So even with her lips, it's been manipulated. So it's quite hard. Let me just bring this up. Yeah, I think I've made her skull too slim. It's a bit frustrating, actually. Let me do this. Let's see if that makes a difference. I think that's a little bit better. Which is why I say don't draw down. If you can help it, get an easel and draw at an angle. Because with an easel, you're always drawing at an angle. So you see, where everything goes. Though, of course, if you're an expert and you've been drawing for a long time, that might not be necessary. I think if you're beginning, you want to, I would recommend getting an easel anyway. So I'll tidy up this side as well. You might want to draw some lines like this, just to make sure your eyes, are on the same level on the face, because otherwise you run the risk of drawing one higher than the other, which will not look good. I'm never good with these lines, but I hope that helps. So, the two eyes don't necessarily, and also it's always good to kind of like draw a line like this in the middle so that the two pointy bits of the eyes meet along the same line. So the eyes don't necessarily need to be the same either, because I think in real life, eyes, they're not necessarily going to both look the same either, necessarily. But if you can make them look similar, at least that's important. It's the same with the eyebrows. Eyebrows are never going to look necessarily the same. But you want to make you want to make them look similar. Like there's this crease on top of the eye. is like the eyelid, I believe. That goes just above the eye like that. And then you have the little skin, kind of goes like, and again we draw, I think I've drawn this one a little bit bigger actually, thinking about it. I think they're both the same, more or less. Maybe this one's a little bit bigger. Also, the other thing is, because this eye is the one that's nearer to the camera, this will look just slightly bigger than this one, depending on the angle. But yeah, that's just something to keep aware of. So again, might have drawn this one a little bit bigger, actually. I'm going to draw it a little bit smaller. It may be too smaller now. I think it's wider, but smaller. Oh, what have I done? Maybe it's too wide. I have to keep bringing it up because I want to make sure that the ratios are correct. And you know, it's still very hard for me to tell. It's so easy to get the dimensions wrong. Especially when you're still learning like I am. I think I might have made this one a little bit too big. So I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, so again, here you decide where the iris is going to go, which will determine where she's looking. So I'm just going to put it there. Feel free to leave me any comments or ask me anything. I think, yeah, this one looks slightly bigger. I think I did make the eye too big. Okay, let me just make this bit a little bit smaller. Ugh, don't know what I'm doing. This is frustrating. I'm sure a lot of you can sympathize. Getting the eyes like similar to each other can be very difficult. And then again, you draw a little ball in the middle. These are not the best graphite pencils I have used, I will be honest. I feel like I don't have that much control with them. They're HB. So they, HB is the middle ground between hard and black, and then what you have is you have different grades of hard, which means the higher you go, the harder it is, which means that the line is lighter. And then you have different grades of black. And of course, same thing, the higher you go on the grade, the blacker and thicker and creamier the line is. This is supposed to be the middle ground, but I really don't like it. I don't like this HB pencil. I'm not sure why. They have drawn the nose just a little bit bigger, a little bit too big. This nostril, that's why they're called nostrils, not little balls. I don't know what I was thinking. They're nostrils. There you go. That's the correct term for them. Such an idiot. Okay, and then you have some eyelashes here. Just gonna draw them there just to make you look a little bit more feminine. I'll tidy them up later. Maybe that's my problem. I'm always tidying things up later. And then some eyelashes here. I think I've given her too many eyelashes, actually. And then you have the little skin, which goes from here. The eyelashes. Got skin there. Again, eyelashes. Let's see what it looks like. I think it looks okay. The eyes are more or less the same size. This one is a little bit wider, perhaps. So I'm just going to make it a little less wide. There we go. And then again, we have the bit here because this is the eyeball, and we have the red bit here, which is just like flesh. And same thing here. I might have to make that eyeball a little bit rounder. And again here. Okay, because as I said to you guys at the beginning, the eyeball is bigger than what we see. It is actually going like here because the eye socket in the skull is actually quite wide. But we don't see the entire eyeball. We only see like, I'm not sure, like half of it. So there's a little bit of skin here, a little bit of skin here. Okay, and then at this point, you can start tidying up the eyebrows and decide which shape you actually want for it. I do recommend drawing from reference or drawing from life. You can draw from imagination once you get the hang. I don't know what I'm saying. Hang of. I don't know what I'm saying. You can draw from imagination once you know what you're doing, I guess is what I'm saying. And you can even try to draw from imagination before then. But it's always good to have a reference, especially if you're a beginner or you're still learning. So it should go like in like this. The other thing that I didn't do, but I'm actually going to do, I'm just going to get up and get it really quickly. Is when you're drawing, you will find, not with all art supplies perhaps, but with a lot of art supplies, you'll find that the like, for example, in this case, for example, the graphite rubs all over the paper because your hand is continuously going like this. So you're continuously rubbing on the medium, in this case graphite. So what I would recommend is taking paper like this one. I mean, this is just kitchen paper, the kind that I think you used to bake cakes with or something, but it's really handy because if you cut off a piece like I have just there, you can place your hand on it, and then as you go around drawing, you don't rub or smudge things as much. So that's helpful. I should have done that from the beginning, but I didn't. Also, the other thing I have, but I don't know where it is because, as I said, oh wait, no, I think I know. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Oops, sorry about that, guys. The other thing that I would recommend is, as well as getting this little piece of paper to stop smudging your drawings, I would recommend getting like a brush. It doesn't have to be a fancy brush. For example, these brushes, they come in this little wallet. Okay, I think I bought them in Little or something like that. And they're not fancy or anything, or maybe I bought them in Poundland. I don't remember now, but it's always good to have a brush, because what happens is when you rub things off of your drawing because you're trying to tidy it up, instead of going like this with your hand, which you shouldn't do because it will smudge the drawing, it's always better to have a brush, because what the brush does is just carefully, as you can see, moves away the little bits of rubber without smudging your picture. So this is the best thing to do. This is what I would recommend when you're drawing, so as to not smudge your picture, because the brushes are they're really soft. This is really soft. It feels really nice. It's just a standard makeup brush. That's all it is. And it wasn't expensive. As I said, I got it from Little or Poundland. I don't remember now. It would have been £1, £2 at the most. But it works. I think it was Little, actually. It works, as you can see, keeps all the rubber crumbs in one place as well, because you don't want to throw it on the floor, because that's a nightmare, because then you have to hoover that or sweep it. So this way, just keep it all in one, like, small section of your desk, and there you go. So the way you haven't smudged your picture. So that's another little trick. And as I said, it doesn't have to be a fancy brush. This is not a fancy brush. This is a cheap brush, but it works. It's really soft, and it does the job, and it's great. Okay, so those are little tips for you guys. But yeah, what I was trying to say earlier is, you can do this once you've drawn a few faces. You can start drawing from imagination. And I think it's good to do both, to draw from reference and draw from imagination, to see what you're capable of when you don't have something in front of you. And this is just, a quick method that you can use when drawing from imagination, because once you have the information in your mind, once you've drawn from reference enough times and you know roughly where everything goes, you can use this simple line setup to just like you started drawing from imagination. But it's always good to draw from reference if you can, at least when you're beginning. But as I said, sorry for repeating myself, I do that a lot. If you want to draw from imagination, you need to learn how to use simple shapes and lines so you can block where everything goes, and then use the information that you've gathered from drawing from reference to place the rest of it. Okay, so I use this cheap makeup brushes. To be honest, I mostly use this one. I've never used this one. And I don't even know how to use this one in terms of makeup. I don't know what you're supposed to do with it because I don't know that much about makeup, but there you have it. Just a simple makeup brush will suffice. Okay, so back to the drawing now. Oh, hold on, I have a comment. Okay, so David from David's Art Channel says, this is a great tutorial. It seems that you are nervous, and this might be because, like you said, you are not used to drawing live, but you are a natural, and I think you should do more live tutorials. I like the tip about brushing the picture. I will pop out and get it on my next makeup run. Thank you, David. I really appreciate the comment and the support. Thank you for thinking I'm a natural. Yeah, maybe I am, maybe I'm not, who knows? But I appreciate the support nevertheless. Thank you for watching my tutorial. Hopefully, I will be able to teach a little bit more as I go along. Yeah, I'm a little less nervous now, but I am still a bit nervous. As I said, this is my first tutorial, so this is quite new for me because I'm used to editing my videos. But as you can see, I draw really slow. And so it takes me really long, usually, to create a video because I draw slow. Some people draw really fast, but that's not me. Okay, so let's study the ear. What am I saying? Ear, a little bit. Ears are kind of one of my weaknesses. Let's see if I can make this one look decent. Even though I draw faces a lot, I don't know why. This one hasn't come out very, like, I don't love it. I mean, I know it's not finished, but I don't really love it so far. I tend to draw faces better than this. So I don't know if it's because I'm nervous or because I'm tired, because it's quite late. I don't know if you're watching this. I don't know where you're based, but I'm based in London, in England. And right now here it's 11 at night, 11:11. So I've had a long day actually, because I still work full time. My YouTube channel is not big enough to make me money yet, so it's a hobby at the moment, one that I enjoy very much. So I have to do this in the evenings or in the weekends because I'm working during the day. So I've had a full-on day. I'm quite tired, but that's no excuse. I haven't drawn in a while, though. I'm always drawing faces, so I'm not sure why this one's come out not quite looking the way I wish it had. Sorry, guys, taking a water break. But hopefully, once it's painted in, it will look a little bit better. This is just an outline. Let's work on. I said her ear. Right. Let's do the ear. As I said, if you want to paint realistically, you don't want these edges. That's more like if you're drawing cartoon or manga, anime, things like that. Realistic drawings will not have edges. They will have, you have to block in the color. So if you see an edge, for example, here, I'm drawing this edge here in her ear. But once I paint it, if I want to make it look realistic, no, I'm not sure if my drawing is good enough for it to turn out looking realistic. I'll have to see, I guess. And because you do want to make sure your sketch is good enough before you start painting it. I think her skull should be a little bit wider, actually. I'm just going to make it a little bit wider. I think it's just a little bit tiny. A little bit too. How long is this? Oh my God, it's already been an hour. You know, I was planning on making this a short tutorial. Never mind. I deluded myself and oh, what am I doing? See, falling into a trap here. I'm wiping away the you know, the rubber crumbs with my hand. No, 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 no. Okay, that looks a little bit better. I think a little bit fuller. Maybe I will make maybe this line just a little bit tinier. Let me turn the paper around. That's another tip for you guys. You want to turn the paper around as many times as you wish when you're drawing, because sometimes it's easier to draw certain angles if you turn the paper around. So don't think you have to have it static, just placed in one position. Okay. Let me try that again. Again, guys, if you can hear the background noise, I do apologize. I do share a house with other people. So that will be why. Okay, my roommates are just, they're very nice, actually, very nice people. They're just doing things right now, which is great. I actually like having background noise because, you know, I'm in my own room, so it's nice just to hear them out there when I'm not mingling with them. Okay, so I think that's a little better. So wait, let me do this ear now. Okay. So the ear is a bit like an oval. Oh, I do fall into the mistake of wiping the rubber crumbs away with my hand when I should be doing it with the brush, so as to stop the smudging. Okay, let me see if I'm okay. I'm a little bit happier with that. That's another thing you want to, if you are drawing with the paper down like me because you don't have an easel, I would recommend you routinely, is that how you say it? You routinely bring the paper up like this. Oh, there we go. At an angle, just so you can see if the ratios look, if that's the right word, if the dimensions look correct, if the ratios look correct, because you are more likely to make mistakes if you are drawing with the paper down. We have a child in the house. He's very cute. He's very energetic. Don't know if you just heard his squealing with happiness, but he just squealed. Okay. So yeah, I was talking about the so this little line, I say little, this long line that I'm like creating here, where the, you know, where the ear is. This line, if you are drawing realistically, you don't want to do this with graphite like I'm doing. I'm just doing this just to show you where the line is. But if I was drawing this to make it appear realistically, I would draw that line with a dark red, because in the reference picture that I'm looking at, the line is like this wine red. So I would use the colors to create the divisions in the ear and the rest of the face and the shadows, rather than draw lines with a graphite pencil, which makes it look more cartoonish. But at the moment, I'm just blocking, anyway, if that's the right word, I'm just blocking the different shapes in the ear. So when I go in and I paint it afterwards, I know which bits are which, and I can go in with different colors, because in the reference picture, this bit here is a dark, like a pinkish red, and this bit here is more of a beige. So you want to block out the different shapes when you're drawing if you're going to paint it later. Because especially if they're different colors, you definitely want to block them. So there's a bit of a lip. There's a bit of the ear has this bit here which kind of goes in. Okay, now I'm making her look like an alien, like she has this thing popping out of her face. Oh God. Okay, not terribly great with ears, but I'm learning. We're all learning. When I draw from imagination, I don't draw ears as much, I will be honest. Usually I have this bad habit of trying to hide the ears with the hair, you know? So I haven't had as much practice drawing ears, though I draw them from time to time. They're quite interesting, actually. I'm gonna give it a more of a lip there. I say lip. What am I saying? Lip. What am I talking about? I don't know. There we go. So that's what I was saying. If you want to draw from imagination, you do have to study anatomy first. So I'm able to draw a face from imagination because I've drawn so many before. But with the ears, I still trip up a little bit because I haven't drawn as many ears as I should have done. So I've had to use, I've had to report to the reference picture in order to draw the ears. That's okay. Like I'll use it for my weak spots. But this is just a simple method to get you started, just so you learn where everything on the face goes. But you don't have to use it just to draw from imagination. You can use it if you're drawing from a picture. I think that actually this round bit here in the picture is a little bit wider. So I'm going to try and make it a little bit wider. Oh, I've made it too wide now. Because this goes in a little bit like this. Oh. And actually the earlobe, remember the right term for it instead of calling it a lip like an idiot. The earlobe is actually a little bit larger than that. And actually, looking at it, there's a little bit of the bone that goes out like this and then comes in and then turns into the earlobe. But I think the most important thing is you always start out with basic shapes and then you adapt as you go along, you know? So with the ear, you start out with a circle and then you manipulate it as you go along. And with the eyes, again, you start out with circles, but then you make them more into ovals. And with the nose is about joining this kind of rectangular shape to a circle at the end. So that's one thing to consider. It's always about, you always start out with basic shapes and then you define them as you go along. So with the eyebrows, once you have the eyebrow shape, what you can do is, if you want to define how big or how small you want the eyebrows to be. So let's say you wanted them to be big here, but thinner here. So sorry, wider here, but thinner here. And again, wider here. And then it arches. There's a little arch there, and then it goes down like this. Okay. So you define your shapes. Okay, like that. And at this point I change because the nose will always join at the top of the eyebrow. So I'm actually gonna have the line there. And again, I'm just gonna bring it upright a little bit just to see what it's looking like so far. Okay, another thing you can do is, what I'm doing here is I also pull it away from me and I look at it from a distance, because usually that will show you if the dimensions are correct or not. And I can see by doing this that actually one of the eyes is a little bit higher. So let me just adjust this one a little bit. It's not that much higher, but it's a little bit higher. Let me just adjust. So let me change this line here. And let me make it a little bit bigger at the top. I think I'm gonna change the pencil again because I'm losing my sharp edge. Ooh, actually, let me take them out. Let me see. Friend, can you share the link to the live video on my Facebook if that's okay? Thank you very much. Basically, guys, I was going to put a link to this live video on my Facebook so that my friends and family could see, but I actually forgot to do that. So that's why I'm asking my friend to do it for me. If I made that the right shape, let me check. Okay. You have to have a lot of patience for drawing because getting things right is difficult. Again, with the more you practice, the better you become. So it will become second nature. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Ooh. Okay, I think the iris on this side is now a little bit bigger, so I'm just gonna Oh, thank you. So I've got a few more comments. Great tutorial, well done. Thank you, Anima Seeds. And then Invisible Sword Production says the ear lip is better than the earlobe. It's not like we have loaves on our house. I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean. But I kind of get it. Yeah, I say silly things. The thing got maybe a little bit too wide. Is that better? You know what? I can't even tell. I just can't tell anymore. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I think I just ruined the eye. Let's try again. Oh wait, that's the skin bit. Yeah, there we go. And then the eye shot out. What am I saying? The eyelashes come out here. So we have the skin that comes out here. I forgot about the skin. And then again, the eyelashes join there. I think my eyeballs, not my eyeballs, but the ones that I'm drawing, just a little bit. I think they should be a little bit more rounded. Okay. I think this iris is a little bit too wide. And just make this bit a little bit more rounded. Okay, I need to make this a little bit more rounded. I kind of messed up earlier. I was redefining the eye. I need to make this skin here. Sometimes with the drawing, one of the things that you do, just bear with me 1 second, guys. Someone is knocking on my door.
See you next week.
See you next week. Sorry about that, guys. That was just my landlord saying, see you next week. Because he's coming back next week. He didn't realize that I was filming, so I apologize for the interruption. But yes, back to the eye. I think this one is a little bit bigger now than this one. This one is a little bit flatter. So let me change that. Sometimes what happens with drawings is that, especially if you're tired, if you've been looking at something for a long, long time, you may start making mistakes if you keep messing around with it, because your brain just stops processing information, certain information after a while. It just kind of needs a break. And I think that's what's happening here. I've been looking at this just for so long. I'm struggling now to see the mistakes, where I'm going wrong. So when you're drawing, if you're not doing a live video like I'm doing, what I would recommend is, if you find yourself struggling at a certain point in the picture, it's always good to take a break. Yeah, it can be a few hours or a day or a few days, and then come back to it with a, with a fresh mind. Because then you'll start seeing things that you couldn't see before. Well, that's always good. So that's another tip. Because, when you make a painting, it's not going to take you a few hours. If you want to make it look good, if you want to make it look realistic. This eye is so wonky. Oh, that's the bane of my, that eye is the bane of my life. Oh, God. Let me try drawing that iris again. Yeah, because when when you're making a painting, it's not going to be a few hours. It's going to take long. If you want to make it look good, like there's a video I'm currently working on that I'm editing. My friend is actually helping me edit this video because I did so many takes. It just, editing it became a nightmare, like a living nightmare. And so my friend has been helping me with it. But my point is, and basically that's why it's not ready yet, because it's 12 hours of footage that we're trying to edit into like a 10-minute video. But the point is, it was a cartoon that I drew. Basically, there's this anime, called Anime Senjushi, that I used to watch when I was a child, and I decided to draw one of the female characters from the anime. And you think it would be really quick because it's a cartoon, but it's not. It took me like 10 hours to draw that thing, because I did the color chart first, because I was reviewing the watercolor set that I was using to create this drawing, okay, this cartoon. So I think the color chart, doing the color chart, and may have taken an hour, maybe less, but then the rest of it is drawing, just creating this girl, and that's a cartoon, and that took me 10 hours. Okay, could be because I'm not a professional yet, I'm not an expert yet, I'm not at that level, so it may take me a little bit longer than most people to draw certain things. Or it could just be that I just take long in general, because everyone is different. Some people are quicker than others. My friend, who is an artist too, he draws really quickly, whereas I draw really, really slow. So it could be that. But the point is, even a cartoon can take you a really, really long time to draw. Okay, so imagine a realistic painting where you have to get everything right, or at least, realistic enough that if somebody was to look at it, they'd go, oh yeah, that's that person. I recognize that person. So yeah, painting is going to take long hours, a lot of hours. It's not going to be just, and you do want to get the sketch correct, the underdrawing correct, if that makes sense. If the drawing is not good enough, then it doesn't matter how good your painting skills is, you won't be able to make it look good. And look out for the shapes because, once you start with simple shapes, granted, but then, as I said, you manipulate them, okay? Like this, and you make them look a particular way. But you always start out with simple shapes. So with the eyebrow, I've decided that it's going to have this shape. But I just put that line there because I wanted to... I was actually wrong. I thought it went to the top of the eyebrow, but it doesn't. The nose actually joins at the bottom of the eyebrow. Looking at the reference picture in front of me. As I said before, I'm not really using the reference picture. I am drawing from imagination. I'm only using it for certain things that I'm unsure about, like where the nose meets with the eyebrow, for example. Okay, and I thought it was at the top of the eyebrow, but actually it's at the bottom of the eyebrow. So, kind of like there. There's a little shadow there. Or maybe it just joins at all the edges. Like that. Okay. Oh, see? I'm telling you about the little paper, and I'm not using it. How silly is that? That's why the picture is smudging. Come on. Come on, Sukio. What are you doing? So I'm just erasing. Sorry about the shaking. Again, it's because my camera, not my camera, sorry, my desk is broken. So I'm just erasing the smudging. This is why I was a little bit weary about starting a live video, because I know how long it takes me to draw and how many mistakes I make when I draw. So it's not a simple process for me, but I do like drawing live. I do like showing how I draw because I'm not a big fan of tracing, to be honest. I know tracing is necessary in certain contexts, like in the commercial sector when you don't really have time to draw properly, because everything is on a deadline and you have to produce things like on a weekly basis. You do rely on tracing a lot. But I personally, I don't like tracing. I would discourage people from using tracing because I think tracing is the kind of tool that works in the short run, but actually works against you in the long run, in the sense that not only can you become overly reliant on it, but also you don't exercise your observation skills when you trace. So when you learn from observation, yes, it will take longer. That's true. It will take longer for you to get to the level that you want to get. That's absolutely true. But at the same time, the reason why it's taking longer, it's because you're exercising your observational skills. And with time, your observational skills become so good that when you draw from reference, you just become a pro at it, or you draw from life. I've seen amazing artists here on YouTube. There's one, I forget his name, I think he's Korean, but he's incredible. I've seen him draw live, like a man is in front of him, sitting in front of him, and he's drawing this man, and this this artist is so good that when he's drawing this man, he actually starts out by drawing his skull, okay? And then he draws the face, even though he can't see the skull. And I think that's incredible. It's like magic. It's just amazing, absolutely amazing. I mean, the level of skill that you have to have in order to be able to do that is astounding to me. I just can't get over how talented this guy is. I really can't get over it. He's so good. I mean, so good. There's not a lot of people that can do that. And my point is, you would not be able to get to that level if you don't draw from observation. If you overly rely on tracing, I don't think you'd ever be able to do that, because the reason why he's good is because he's learned from observation. So that's why I personally am not a big fan of tracing. And I don't recommend it. I really don't. I think if you want to become a really good artist, I don't think you should rely. I don't think you should rely on tracing. I really don't. But everyone is different. It's not my place to tell you how to draw. If you want to trace, obviously, nothing I can say will stop you. and and you're not going to change your mind just because I'm saying it. It's up to you at the end of the day. But my advice would be, don't do it. Draw from observation, because yes, it will take longer, but in the end, you will train your visual skills and you will become really good. It might take longer, but the payoff is better, I believe. Yeah, I'm messing up the nose. My nose was fine, and I went and messed it up. This is what happens when you overdraw. That's another thing as well. Sometimes we just go too far with our drawings. We need to know when to stop. And I don't always know when to stop. Oh, I'm messing up this nose big time. Let me try again. Hmm. There's a shadow here, which gives volume to the nose. Right here where the eye is. And then it goes all the way up here, but she is wearing eyeshadow. I can see that. But on this eye, it looks a little bit darker. Anyway, I still need to create that eyebrow. Here there is a shadow as well. Kind of goes in like this. This one is a little bit lighter. But again, if you're drawing realistically, you wouldn't use lines. Should really have a putty rubber for this. I do have one somewhere, I just don't know where it is. There we go. I think the nose is a bit more even now. Okay, let me redefine that eyebrow. So if I do this, a bit. These are the times when it would be good to have a ruler, but I have no idea where my ruler is. So I draw a line like this in order to make sure it's more or less leveled with this one, and I draw a line here so I know where it begins as well as where it ends. That makes sense. And then I try to match the other one. Again, eyebrows are not always going to be the same anyway, so it's fine. Like, you don't have to make it exactly the same. Oh my God, it's been nearly 2 hours. Jeez. There we go. Okay, let me try that again. But you try your best to make them match. You might have to I think the problem is that this one will look shorter on this side because of the angle. So I need to kind of change this shape a little bit. Okay, so it's not going to be exactly the same, but you can try and make it look more or less similar. Okay, after you kind of draw it rectangular, you can soften the edges. But to be honest, you're going to draw hairs in it anyway. It's not going to stay like that square shape. You want to give it a little bit of texture. I have pressed too hard there, actually. So then I'm just going to adjust the nose here. I'm just going to do this. But when you paint it, it's going to give it another dimension anyway. So then here you can start like adding hairs, depending on how you want to draw the eyebrows. And how thick you want to make them. Might want to tidy them up if she's got. This is not the best rubber. I should have taken one of my pencil rubbers for the little details. I think I'm going to get it actually. Bear with me, guys. So these little pencil rubbers, this one is Faber-Castell, but different brands do them. They can be very handy when it comes to little details like this one, because I can just do this. Hopefully it won't remain red. Just a little bit. And it tidies up any little areas that I want to tidy up. Maybe I'm pressing too hard. That's why it's coming out red. Okay, so my eyebrows are they're not the best. But when I paint it in, I'll try and do it differently. These are, of course, eyebrows that have been either waxed or threaded, because natural eyebrows are never that neat. Maybe some people are lucky and they're born with eyebrows that are always like that. That would be great. But in my experience, eyebrows are never that neat. So these are eyebrows that have been doctored, that have been manipulated, definitely. But that's the thing about drawing from reference. In pictures, everyone always looks perfect because it's been photoshopped. So if you want to learn how actual faces look like and how hair looks like in its natural form, again, I would recommend drawing from life, getting some life classes and drawing from life. Yes, that's just me just adding some shade. And the thing about shadows is, again, I don't know the actual terms. I have to look them up. I did know them, but I forgot them. With shadows, you always have the harsher shadow and the lighter shadow. So, you know, the top shadow is always a little bit harsher. And then as it stretches out, it's always a little bit lighter. Like that. Okay. I'm going to change that line actually because I feel like that nose line is just a little bit too straight. So let me try that again. The nose is always a little bit rounded. I feel like it would be a little bit like that. I feel like that shadow is too harsh. Let me just... Thing about light as well, like I would say the light is coming from this angle. And so what's going to happen is if it's shining and this is the focus of the light, then there's going to be more shadows on this side than on this side, because obviously if the light is shining here, then there's going to be less shadows. Now this shadow here is not even that harsh. This one is much harsher. I made this one a little bit too harsh, and if I had putty rubber, which I will get for the next video, I would be able to kind of like just make it a little bit more subtle. This is still there, it's just subtle. Because the nose is obviously not that tiny. This is just a shadow. Bear with me. Bear with me, friend. And this shadow is just a little bit harsher. Okay, let me just change the face line because I feel like I made it thicker than it should have been. Okay. But with the shadows, I mean, if you're just drawing with graphite, then yes, by all means, add the shadows in graphite. But I do plan on painting this later with color. So that will change the face slightly, because when you add color, it always looks different than it does in graphite, slightly different anyway. But yeah, this is basically my process of how I achieve a face. And again, I didn't really use a reference. I only used it for the little bits that I wasn't sure about. It's always good to have a reference in front of you, by all means. But you can draw from imagination, as I said before, if you have enough information, if you've drawn from reference enough and you know where everything goes. For example, once you draw enough faces, you know there's always like this little ridge on top, you know, the eyelid. There's always like this little crease there. Yeah, because there's always an eyelid and it always goes above the eye. You know that the eyeball is bigger than the actual eye. You don't see the entire eyeball when you're looking at the eye. Okay, and what I do is what I've shown you guys. I start with basic shapes, I work with basic shapes, and then I tidy it up as I go along. Okay, if I feel like I didn't draw the skull large enough, I just make it larger. And I work with what I have as I go along. Okay, so this is a basic face. I haven't drawn the hair. I think I'm going to dedicate a different video for the hair and for the actual painting of the picture, because this is now 2 hours long because it takes me a long time to draw. Okay, but this is just, as I said, I was very nervous when I first started because this is my live video. Now I feel a little bit more comfortable that I've gotten into the flow of it. I was just trying to show you guys a simple method to start drawing faces, especially if you're drawing from imagination and you have some information that you've gathered over years of drawing and practice. You know, actually, where's my rubber? I'm going to change this cheek because I just realized that cheek is not large enough. It doesn't go with the rest of the skull, because you see here it's quite wide, and I feel like I haven't drawn the cheek wide enough, and it should be leveled with the size of the skull, I think. However, then you run the risk of making the person look a little bit chubby. So there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. If you want them to look chubby, that's fine. But I'm just going to make the cheek a little bit slimmer than that. Okay, it's a little bit fuller now, but I don't think she's looking chubby. But even if she is, that's fine. It's good to draw people of all different sizes. Okay, so yeah, I think the face looks a little bit fuller now. It's a little bit more on par with that part of the skull. I just think I exaggerated that a little bit. There we go. Okay. And yeah, I'm going to leave it there for now. I will continue this drawing on another video because this has been 2 hours now. I'll continue this drawing. So I'm going to leave it there. Let me just put that aside. I will add the hair on a different video, and I will also paint it in a different video. But that is basically how I draw a face. To reiterate, as I've done quite a few times during this video, I start with basic shapes and I adapt as I go along. And this was just, I'm not saying it's the best method. I would recommend the Riley method, which I'm studying myself. But this is just something to get you started. If you're struggling with drawing or you think the other methods are a bit too complex and you just feel lost and you don't like using the grid method or you don't like tracing, I don't recommend tracing, but also I personally don't like it. I don't think it's fun, and I find it to be actually harder work than drawing this way. Personally, that's just how I feel. So if nothing's worked for you, then you can always try this method. It's quite simple. It's just using basic shapes. And I feel like you can get results with it if you practice enough. So yeah, this video was just to teach you the simple method of drawing faces. And I hope you've learned something from it and it's helped you in some form. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Yeah. Give it a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Ask me any questions, or if you want to criticize, you can do that too. You can leave me a comment saying, actually, you have no idea what you're talking about. And that's fine. But if you like the video, also leave a comment, subscribe. That would be really, really great. And give it a thumbs up. And honestly, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, even though I was nervous. And yeah, see you next time. And have a great evening or day, depending on where you are. Bye, guys.